I also want to announce that we'll be off next week, but we're going to be returning the week after with another panel. This one's going to be discussing travel agency fees. Jennifer will be back, and she'll be joined by Steve Hershin of Avoya, David Harris of Ensemble, Zena Gideon of TPI Canada, and Lori Spears of Extreme Travel. So we're really excited about that. We're excited to have these panels for the next few weeks. And as always, we'll get the link out to register for that one once we wrap up here. And I also want to remind everyone that with the Gap next week, everyone who hasn't been on the past sessions and are interested in sort of viewing the old videos, we have them posted on our YouTube page. I'm going to drop that link in the chat right now. There's some great videos on there. We did one on travel agency fees that has over 1,000 views. Last week's was on staying current with travel trends. That's a super important topic right now too. So if anyone's interested, if you have some time next week, the link's in the chat. Okay, so for all you people who've been on these before, today is going to be a little different as we're doing a panel. We're lucky to be joined by a number of luminaries of the travel industry to talk about where the industry goes from here. So we're excited to welcome Jackie Friedman from Nexion, Kathryn Mazza Burney of Nest, John Werner of MAST, Vicky Garcia of Cruise Planners, and Jenn Lee of TPI US. Together, they have more than a century of travel industry experience. They are all in executive positions at major agency and host organizations, and they know the industry inside and out. So we're really happy and proud and excited to have them all here today. And I'm going to go and pass it over to our host for the next three sessions, Jennifer Wilson-Buttigieg of Valerie Wilson Travel, who was actually our first guest on these series. Before I go, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for joining us today, not just the guests and Jennifer, for everyone in the audience. It's been a pleasure to have you guys these past 10 weeks or so, and I just want to say thank you so much. So we'll pass it over to Jennifer now for today's discussion.
Thanks, Dan. Really appreciate it. As the theme is, where does the travel industry go from here? I really want to start with a warm welcome to each one of you for joining us today, and a thank you. I'm really humbled. I'm a little out of my comfort zone, as many of you know. I'm usually on the panel side, so thank you to Anne-Marie, and thank you to Dan, and thank you to TMR. Our commitment to you over the next hour is to make this not only educational and engaging, but really authentic. We all love this industry. We know we are going to survive, but what we need is feedback and tips and tools that these experts are going to help share with us. I want to help set the stage first. We always need a reference point. TSA numbers. The low point was mid-April when there were 88,000 only in the entire United States. A normal summer day in the United States would be 2.7 million. Based on a webinar earlier this week, I learned there were 685,000 a day last week. So we're doing much better, but we got a long way to go. I know TMR is going to put up a question in a moment for some polling. This morning's news shows that businesses like the travel industry that are down more than 50% might get some additional funding in the US with PPP and CARES Act 4. So if you don't mind filling out the poll, are you a member of ASTA? Are you a member of ACTA? So as Dan said, we have oh, I didn't realize that was going to come up on mine. We're gonna put that one away.
Hello.
Hello. We have a really impressive group, and I'm going to kick it off with the first of 6 questions. We're all really passionate about this industry, and I'm sure there have been highs and lows. Sometimes it's a day, a week, an hour, even just a moment. What are some of the positive aspects of being a travel advisor that have come to light for you during this period? Jackie, do you want to kick us off?
Sure, I'd be happy to, and hello to everyone. It is actually a great time to be a travel advisor. You might wonder why I say that, but what you have done for your clients, the efforts that you have gone to, the champion of your customers' best interests, all of those things really, really have increased and improved the value that you provide to your customers. And so my advice to you is look at these days as an investment in your future business, an investment in the relationships with your customers, because you are keeping their best interest in mind, even if it might mean a reduction of income in your own pockets. But one thing I can absolutely say is that when we come out of this, and we will, the travel advisors will be valued more than ever before.
I agree with you completely, Jackie. Absolutely, it's an investment in the industry we love, in yourself and in your clients. John, do you want to chime in there a little bit?
Sure. Thank you, Jennifer. I actually had two thoughts on that, and one is an extension of what Jackie was saying. And, you know, since this whole thing began in March, you know, a lot of talk about the heroes in the industry, you know, across the country, you know, like the first responders and all the healthcare workers. Well, I think a lot of travel advisors have been heroes for their customers, you know, rescuing them from destinations all over the world as borders were closing, as people were trying to get back home. Travel advisors had to spend a lot of time and tears, in some cases, just to be able to get their customers back home. So I think, you know, people who use travel advisors, they understand that and they get it and they value them even more, as Jackie was saying about the value. The other thought that I had was the increase in professionalism through all this as well, because travel has definitely, it's more complex. It's going to be more complex. So I think the increased professionalism and everything will uplift the industry as well.
I couldn't agree more. I should have said at the beginning of this, I'm not a big one where every panelist answers every question, and there are a couple additional questions that we're going to toss in here. So let's sort of go to, as Dan said, these are hosts, consortias, franchises. These are the leaders of our industry, different organizations, entrepreneurial businesses. There's no right answer. There's no right format. There's no one right way to do business. Doesn't matter if you're corporate, if you're leisure, if you're cruise, if you're meetings. Doesn't matter if you're a W-2 or a 1099 IC. It's an industry that's inclusive to all. So that second question is, why is belonging to a group at this time so important? And I'm going to kick that over to Jenn Lee.
Hey, everybody. I unmuted myself, right? Hey, everybody. Yeah, I mean, I'd say now one of the things that we are seeing, all of us collectively, and we have shared, and our advisors had shared back to us, is thank goodness we are part of a host or a consortia or a group of people to not only just lean on, but to be able to share communications. I had written down, you know, the emotional connection that you all need right now is so very important. And John, I wrote down, you said your time and the tears. And the tears is what really got me, because listen, many people are not okay, and that's okay that you're not okay. And when you're part of a community that has a strong connection, a family type of connection, you don't feel like you're all alone any longer. And of course, leveraging the collective as you are fighting tooth and nail in many cases to get your refund from your supplier, to get someone's attention for an escalation, for an exception, without being part of a larger collective. You're just one single voice out there. And of course, the free flow of cool ideas. Right now, there's so many different travel advisors and agency owners out there that are, you know, kind of recreating themselves, rethinking their business. I know a lot of people use the word pivot, and I was as well. And then I heard Vicky Fried use rethink, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's it. It's rethinking your business. And, you know, when you're part of a collective, you have somebody else to bounce those ideas off of. Create collaborations. We're seeing all kinds of stuff because you're part of a community, and a community that feels close-knit to you. So to me, that's pretty special, pretty important, and pretty much worth that $20 to $40 a month you're paying.
Jen, I think those are all great points. I know Anne-Marie in her editor's letter recently on TMR talked about resetting, reconnecting, resetting, pivoting, whatever word choice, but it's being a part of something.
Yep.
And I think you touched on something else, that it's not just to share great new ideas, but it's actually to share those tears, or just say, I'm having one of those really bad days, and who's going to have my back?
Yep. Yeah. Who understands me? Who understands what I'm going through? Because your spouses don't, guys. Sorry, they just don't. It's only another travel advisor. We get each other.
We do. I actually want to flip the question. And as I turn this to Kathryn, what if we flip it and say, why not belong to a group? Why no one should be alone right now?
No, and that's exactly it, Jennifer. knowing that I was following Jenn Lee and that Jenn Lee would have lots to say, I think it's important to flip the question. And it is more, why not belong to an organization? You know, pre-COVID, mid-COVID, post-COVID, our commitment doesn't change. Our commitment to the training, to the technology, to the marketing, to our preferred supplier relationships doesn't change. Our commitment to the associations, especially ACTA and ASTA right now, who are doing everything and doing a phenomenal job lobbying and advocating on behalf of the travel industry community, is what this is all about. So for me, it's not all about why belong, who to belong to. It's just make sure when you've got your options out there that you are aligning yourselves with a company that's got the same philosophy, someone that has your your business, you know, fits with. Mm-hmm. You know, there is a model out there that fits everyone and every industry, every organization. So
every business unit, every pillar. So I'm hearing I'm hearing an encouragement from you that if you're not a part of something, part of a host, a franchise, a consortia, whatever's right for that individual entrepreneur, that you start to look into it at this point in time.
That's exactly it. And what I believe is most important is not who you belong to, it's that you belong.
Yep.
So that you belong yourself with somebody.
And that's what I actually love about the title of this entire series that we're going through right now. It's where does the travel industry go from here? And it's not that one franchise or host or consortia is better than the other. It's this whole industry together is so critically important for global tourism, for the global economy. And we are looking at us in one collective filter right now and giving tools and tips to each one of you. So one of the questions that I really am probably most excited about that we are going to do rapid fire, and Vicky is going to start off, is as industry leaders, we need to think strategically. I want to get us out of the day-to-day muck right now. I want to put the word pandemic and COVID behind. I almost wish it never had crept into our worlds like a tsunami in February. And I want us to start to say, what if I asked you to think strategically? That today was July 23rd, 2030, 10 years from now. Or what if it was July 23rd, 2025? Or even, what if it's July 23rd, 2021? We're all leaders. We all have the opportunity to make this industry what we want it to be. So I want you to be able to answer the question, what do you envision the future landscape of travel to be? And I'm going to start with Vicky. Vicky, for 2030.
It's a great question. You know, who would have known we would have been here right now 10 years ago? We didn't know this would have happened in January of this year. So it's super hard to figure that out. Obviously, in the next year, we're hoping ships will be in the water, whether it be slowly, whether it be 60% capacity, whether 2030, I would suspect, if I had my crystal ball, but it broke last week. If you can tell, we're from Florida. We don't have a good crystal ball down here. We got hurricanes and we got the highest COVID rates, all that stuff. But I think like in the business world, in the marketing arena, and the just customer service, hyper personalization. Like I think since now we're all working from home, we don't know how long that'll be, is how personalized can you be when you talk to people or when you market to them? I think is going to become more critical. We've been working on it for years, but I think in today's environment, that person who personalizes wins. And then the obvious is heightened awareness to all this, you know, personal hygiene stuff. I think masks are going to be around for a long time. We're going to start looking at stuff like Asia has been doing for years and how they've changed. So we're gonna look a little bit different. I think we'll get a little bit creative with it. I mean, I think I have a different funky mask for every day of the year.
Love it.
I have bling ones. I've got, you know, different color ones. We already have cruise liner ones for that matter. But you'll see hand sanitizers become more of a, like it is now.
Part of the norm.
It's the new norm, which, you know, those are those words you don't want to hear, is new norm, pivot. We've all overused them, but it's reality. It is what it is. And
uncertain times are hard on human beings. So you as leaders help break down some of those barriers and say it's okay. It's important. In fact, it's not just acceptable, but we need passengers to wear masks on a plane, or we need, until we understand the science of this health crisis. So Vicky, I'm going to shift over, thank you, to John. Give me one or two thoughts. Are you picking 2030, 2020, or 2021?
Well, I think it'll be all 3 years. When I think about innovation, you know, the travel industry has been very innovative in so many ways, between cruise lines and tour companies with the different kinds of tours, and of course, all different kinds of hotel, accommodation models. So I think, obviously, whenever there is a crisis or something that is produces what you might say a game changer, another word that sometimes we don't like to keep using, but innovation, this is forcing innovation on all across the industry. So there's going to be a lot of new styles, new tours, and maybe some new places to go. So that's what I see, is that even next summer, you said a year from now, but even if we go to 2025, it's going to be continual innovation, a lot of creativity in the industry.
And not to be afraid to try it, because there's no one best fit again. Technology changes so fast, customer needs change fast, suppliers are evolving. I think it's the encouragement to try new things.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's going to be a big outcome of this, as far as a positive, if there could be
Absolutely.
anything.
I was reading an article with Korn Ferry recently where most major businesses would have gone through an 18-month process to decide how people could work from home in that second week in March. And that's just the way business was, big business. And as entrepreneurs, we all, and I do use the word pivot, changed so quickly that many of us did that in 48 hours. So this is where I will back you up 100%, John, and say encourage you for innovation. Yeah. Any other points there? Or do you want me to move on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Kathryn.
Yeah, good point with Vicky and John, but I would first of all, if I look at the landscape, I would go that consumer confidence in the travel community will never be stronger, and you can take it across all 3 years. But I would also say that the preferred suppliers that the agency community looks at will be a lot smaller. It will be scaled down. I think a lot has come to light in the industry in the last 4 months as to who has supported the agency community and who has not. So I believe if you look at the landscape and you look inside an agency in the next 1, 5, 10 years, I think it'll look very different as to who they rely on and who they support moving forward with their consumers.
I think it's recognizing that we are very much a viable channel, and it's not about disintermediation, but it's about that collaboration.
That's exactly it.
Fantastic.
Jenny, I can add one thing. I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation, whether it be with suppliers buying each other out, working together, or even travel agencies. I just think that's usually what happens when the economy tanks like this, is people kind of meld into larger companies. So I think that's probably something that is inevitable that's going to happen in the near future.
It certainly happened after other, quote, once-in-a-lifetime crises, 9/11 and 07, 08. I feel like the wonderful opportunity of a 30, 40-year career where you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity or crisis, we seem to be thriving through them, but consolidation is part of it, at least for a while, until economy grows and then it ebbs and flows. And then there's new entrepreneurial spirits. So why don't I go to Jenn next? Are you picking 2030, 2020, or next year?
Well, listen, this time next year, all the advisors are going to be crazy booking stuff. So let's just check that off. We're going to be done.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, we're done with that. So we know that. I think by 2025, one of the things that I've said for the last few years, and I'm hoping it comes true because I think this is the time, is that we're going to the brick and mortar is going to come back. I know you're going to think I'm crazy by saying that, but that customer experience, that touch is something that everyone is really starting to like. We are liking the Zoom meetings, which is a connection of some sort. So your clients are more comfortable with that. So I think the brick and mortar collective is coming back. I think people who are trying to retire, I know I've talked to like 10 personally that were going to close their agency literally like in March and they couldn't. And so, because they need to take care of their clients. A lot of those mergers will happen by 2025. Technology will be embraced versus feared by 2030 for sure, but 2025, if we can get some artificial intelligence that makes sense at the advisor level and the agency level, by 2030, we're going to be killing it. And those OTAs will no longer be around. It will always be not self-served, but through servitude of you guys. And that's what I predict. Let us mark it and let us come back in a time capsule and see if Jenn Lee is right.
I can't wait. I look forward to that opportunity. Maybe we put something on Outlook for 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years from now, where we can say, can we remember when? What was that crazy year, 2020 like?
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Jen.
I was just going to say, I was going back, all my memories are coming up on Facebook, and a lot of them are like, 2020 is going to be the best year yet. I mean, you just wait for 2020. I can't wait. And I'm like, oh my God, we were so wrong. So
far, only
so
half
far.
the year's over. So
exactly.
Jackie, do you want to sort of bring this home for us? And don't know if you want to do 2030, 2025, or next year, or all three.
You know what, I'm going to pick 2021 because if I look at a silver lining that is coming out of all of this is a renewed value on the importance of connecting. So families who have been spending time together at home, you know, they've spent more time, they've had quality time, they've had meals together, but there have been other friends and family that they haven't been able to connect with. And travel is the best way for them to do that when we come out of this pandemic. So I see really, really strong demand going into 2021 for groups, for family groups, for groups of friends, for any kind of affinity to travel together, albeit differently, but they're going to want to make those connections because we miss those now. And so my advice to travel advisors is to have those conversations with customers, get them to start thinking about the types of experiences that they may want to share, and, you know, get out there and do some really solid one-on-one marketing, because for every family group or group of friends, it's going to be a little different. But you got to talk about pent-up demand. I have never spent so long not going anywhere, and I know we're all going crazy because that's just our reality. Just think who else feels that way. And so those that can really help clients start stimulating ideas on how to handle that pent-up demand will certainly be helpful. So just a little different spin than the others.
I love it. And that's why panels are so great, because we all have different perspectives on things. And like you, I have not had so many consecutive dinners at home in my life. But it's an opportunity to reconnect with my grandson and my husband, and obviously social distancing with a few family and friends. But those affinity groups and family get-togethers, I think they're a part of our lives. I don't want to say we took them for granted and we were all so overscheduled and planning out, but I think travel is an integral part of our lives and the future. But we as advisors really need to have those one-on-one, or as Vicky was saying, hyper-personalized conversations and connections.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer, can I just throw in there? You know, over the course of the last 10 years, you know, there were conversations, and so many conversations, about the fact that the travel advisor was going to be extinct. And how nice is it today that that's not even a conversation? They are so, the role they play today, the travel advisors, is so important. And going into the future, it's only going to get more important. So it's such a great conversation, because 10 years ago, we weren't having that. You know, we were defending why we believed that the agency community would be around, and today we know it will be.
Absolutely, and I think it's how we all reinforce that message on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And I'll actually use this as an opportunity to say, if you're on this call, and I think we have about 715 people on right now, which is a tremendous tribute to TMR and to each one of our panelists. But if you have not gone on the ASTA website and participate in the grassroots effort to say how important this industry is, how viable it is. Nice mug, Jen. I would also take it a step further. Several members of ASTA have gone on Facebook. Several have sent it to their clients. Many have sent it to their suppliers. We have clearly identified that this is an important channel in our distribution. Advisors are here to stay, and if you find that they are important, which I know you do because you're on this call, take the 2 minutes and write your local congressperson, just fill out on the portal. So I'm going to switch. We're going to come back down from 2021, 2025, 2030, but I will make that Outlook reminder, Jen. And I want to look at day to day. I want to say there are new things that we can actually change. This is our opportunity to make that wish list come true. So rapid fire. I hear somebody's blinker, but that's okay.
I know, it's like none of us are driving, are we?
I'm like, I hope none of you are driving. But,
No.
Dan or Jason will find that out. What is one new policy or one new procedure that's either taking place at the agency level now or that should be? So rapid fire, John.
Well, I think what a lot of travel advisors are going to have to do, and they've started already, is, there's a lot of things to go over with a customer buying a trip, and of course they've tried to avoid some of the more unpleasant sides of the business by not maybe talking about some of the cancellation terms and conditions of suppliers, some of the policies, and they have painfully found out what some of those terms and conditions really say through all of this. And I think they're going to have to, while they have wanted to avoid anything that would kill the excitement and the joy of booking a trip to an exciting destination, they're going to have to make those as part of their conversations now with customers. So
feeling comfortable, like many years ago, agents and advisors didn't feel comfortable with a conversation on fees. Now it's how do we get very comfortable with terms and conditions?
Exactly. Yeah.
So sort of that next iteration. Great. Kathryn?
Fees. Implement fees.
That is actually going to be our next panel on August 6th.
Your time is valuable. Implement fees.
All kinds of fees?
I'm sorry?
All kinds of fees?
On the corporate side, on the leisure side, your time is valuable. Absolutely. Every other industry charges for their services. Implement fees. And I could say with the companies that I work for, both MAST and Travel Savers, that is a huge topic. If you are not charging fees today, you're missing the boat.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Vicky?
Yeah, so some of our franchisees charge fees. We don't strongly push it or encourage it or not discourage it. What we've learned from our top agents is they prefer not to charge them and deliver the service, even though they find their time valuable and they just feel like they'll get it back. Or they might have a fee but always waive it. So there's that mentality. But to me, biggest policy changes were we've actually, to John's point, instead of just conversation, we've actually written it into the contracts. So here's your invoice, but don't forget, if you get COVID-19, we're not responsible. We're the middle person. We're only the agent in between. And we've also provided assets to our franchise owners and resources that allow them to have those difficult conversations. Because when you get that question, you don't know what to say. But we provide the tools to help them kind of maneuver that and talk to it.
So it's again becoming comfortable with it as a new best practice and a norm. And I'm gonna truly try to keep fees for the next panel because they're all types, and it's one of those topics everyone has an opinion on. I certainly have noticed, but we will address that in August. Jackie, what's a new procedure or policy, or what do you want to see?
One thing that I think is more important now than ever is the work that you do between the time you make a booking and the time the customer travels. We know that things are ever changing. Something that might be the case in a destination your customer is booking now may be different when they travel. So you've got to stay on top of it. You've got to regularly point your clients to third-party resources that give them the insight and the information on the destinations that they're going. But if you were ever, and I don't think any of you are, but if you were ever the type of advisor that after you have the credit card number, you move on to the next customer, we can't do that anymore. We really, really have to babysit that booking, for lack of a better word, to ensure that consumers are absolutely informed about the destinations, the resorts, the experiences that they can expect when traveling.
It sounds like it's confidence through the entire travel journey. It's not just before the booking or at the booking.
Yeah.
Now what's going to change in the next day or two before somebody flies or drives or arrives from state to state. So it has
Absolutely.
shifted the perspective, very much so. A quick thank you to Dan, who put up the link for ASTA, and to Jason, who reminded me we want the link for our friends above the border to the north, the ACTA, Association of Canadian Travel Agencies, a strong partner with ASTA as well. Looking forward to having those borders open so there can be some travel back and forth there, ideally coming up soon. These are uncertain times, and if I never hear the word unprecedented again, I would be absolutely fine with that. But as human beings, we crave certainty, we crave connection, we crave clarity, and those are words that have come up in the last 30 minutes. I want to ask you, who's your scary time hero? And these are scary times, and as leaders, sometimes we are not supposed to say we're scared too. We're supposed to have all the answers. But with the pandemic, we can't do that. And with a health crisis, which you can't see, it's not tangible, I believe we all have scary time heroes. And I would really, really like to hear from each one of you, whether it's personal or professional. Let's start with Vicky. Vicky, can't hear you. I think you're muted.
I thought about this question since we spoke the other day, and I'm like, I'm not going to give some philosophical answer or whatever. You know, ordinary people like you and I that display strength and courage when we're facing this crazy stuff is insane. So this is going to be a little bit sappy.
That's good.
Because I can easily see my mom and all these things, my wife, Carol, I can say all those things. But my whole team at the office, we've gone through so much to get this far through this. And unfortunately had to furlough some people and lay off some people. But they took it with I'm a team member and I got to do what I can do to help. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say, led by my BFF and business partner, Michelle Fee, which you all know, and couldn't be on this call today. So I'm her backup. I'm her pinch hitter.
She's very lucky.
She's, you know, we talk every day and inspire each other every day. And when I'm down, she picks me up. And when she's down, I pick her up. Sometimes I have to slap her, but, you know, we'll get through that.
Well, and we might take that offline. But what I would say, it's about having each other's back. And there's no right or wrong answer. That wasn't sappy. That was authentic. Jackie, do you mind sharing one with us? Scary time hero?
Sure. I mean, sure. You know, I'm going to go back to ASTA because ASTA has always been a tremendous champion of the travel advisor community. ACTA, same thing in Canada. They are there to promote and defend. So they're really doing two things right now that are bringing us together as an industry. In terms of promoting, they are looking for endless opportunities to tell the story of the travel advisor and how the travel advisor is that frontline hero. They are also doing yeoman's work advocating at the government level, but also bringing us all in and getting us involved in grassroots advocacy. So I can't thank them enough. They say it takes a crisis. You know, I am on the ASTA board of directors, and
Twice.
I can tell you that twice.
The second time
and I can tell you, I know, I can come back for more. But in the past several months, the membership growth has been greater than it has been in, you know, since I can remember. And so we, as an industry, are coming together as a community under ASTA's leadership, and I'm very much appreciative of that.
Absolutely, and you had a great
and ACTA,
point,
by the way.
that there was a new IC membership category that has had a huge growth.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Okay, Jen.
Yes. So I have three, but I'll make it quick. My first one is Erwin Hernandez, who is our senior VP at TPI. He's my partner in crime through all of this. He has been calm, cool, and collected. And when I get a little frazzled, I just call Erwin and he calms me down. The second one is Richard Fain. Every time one of his videos comes out, I feel like I'm sitting with like my favorite uncle. He calms me down. I love the fact that he hasn't gotten his hair cut or colored like me in all those months. I think he is definitely a scary time hero. And then thirdly, obviously, the travel advisors. The fact that they still wake up every single day at 4 o'clock in the morning, don't go to bed until midnight, stay on hold, do whatever it takes, doing it for free. They are my scary time heroes. They are the reason that I work as hard as I do, because I could never outpace them ever. Those are my three.
Yep.
I love the enthusiasm and passion that comes through when you listed all three.
Yeah.
Kathryn?
Jen went before me yet again.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I didn't get to answer one of the questions, Kathryn, so it's okay. She skipped me. It's no big deal.
You know what? I have to go with, by far, the travel advisors. You know, in the darkest of days, your commitment, your support, your optimism has just been absolutely incredible. And I will follow that up to say that I would be remiss if I didn't mention Richard Fain, who I watch every one of his videos.
Yep.
And the haircut I agree with, but you know, even though he's not always delivering the message that we're looking for, he does it in such a calming way that I get off the phone feeling, you know what, everything's going to be okay. So I got to go with Richard Fain as well.
And everything is going to be okay. John, do you want to share yours or one of yours?
I'm gonna say my wife, because she is a travel advisor, and Jen said several minutes ago that you can't always count on your spouse to understand what you're going through and what the industry's going through, but I'm fortunate that I can, because my wife does work in the industry. So if I have had a rough day, I can talk to her about that, and she gets it. So, and the same in reverse when she's had a rough day. So I'm going to say my hero is my wife.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That is great. I hope she's listening to this. And if not, you can, as Dan and Jason will tell us later, we'll show you where the recording is, and you can go back and make sure. We often don't tell the people that we love, that we work with, thank you enough. And I think this scary time hero question is a broader one, to take back to your team, to take back to your supplier, to take back to your family member, to even a friend who reaches out with a text to say, I know your industry is having a really hard time right now. I'm just thinking of you. So it's a reminder that reaching out, caring, connectivity, but people go beyond to help each one of us out. I need to be respectful of time. It's 1:40. We have questions coming up in about 5 minutes. Many of you have said questions in before. Some may be adding to the chat. Dan and Jason are going to help with that. But what I want us to be able to do is not just a scary time hero. These have been very reflective times. I have little note cards that I keep in the front of my desk to remind me to speak slowly, or that I don't have all the answers, or a quote from Winston Churchill, or what have I learned about myself, my business, and my industry? And we are going to look back at the pandemic of 2020, and we are going to survive. I have no hesitation about that. So if you take a glasses half full mindset on this question, and I'm going to start with Kathryn so you don't have to go behind Jen this time, I'm going to ask, what's the one thing you've learned? And it doesn't have to be travel. It can be personal, that has changed you during this time.
So I've got 4 answers to that.
Oh my goodness.
And 3 are personal.
Go ahead.
One is that I'm an awful cook, and it was confirmed during COVID, during my quarantine at home. I no longer enjoy red wine. I'm now a white wine drinker.
Okay.
I am a huge online shopper, which I never ever thought I would be. And I think what most I've learned about myself is that to never take for granted the time that I've spent on the road, because you know what? It could be taken away from you just like that. And it was.
And it will be back, but it'll be
back. Absolutely, it will be back. And I can't wait. I will be on the first flight. I tried to get to the Bahamas actually a couple of weeks ago, and they've locked us out. But
locked us out in the last couple of days.
I will absolutely be on a flight to some beautiful island as soon as they allow it.
Thank you for sharing. Sharing is such an important component of us authentically trusting each other. John?
Well, I was thinking, you know, traveling in general, of course, we all love that. But I have always loved big cities. And, right now, everybody thinks, oh my gosh, who would go to a big city right now? And that's where you're going to get exposed to the virus, or your risk is higher. But I've always, I live near Chicago. I love New York. I love London. I love Vancouver. And so I always miss the opportunity. I think when you go to a big city, even though you're in the middle of huge crowds, there's always an opportunity for reflection, or to appreciate what you have and the life that you have, even in the midst of thousands and millions of people. So I miss all that.
I agree with you completely on that. Vicky?
It's two-part. Number one, just the attitude of gratitude is being grateful for everything that we have. Yes, people are getting sick everywhere and whatever, but we're staying home. That's not the worst thing that can happen. I think our family relations are getting better. I mean, I don't have kids, so that's one win. I'm not homeschooling anybody. So for those of you that are, but then one thing I actually observed and feel has become so much more important and passionate to me is communication. And personally and professionally. Communicate with your partners, communicate with your family. Maybe you can't see them, but talk to them. And in business, is how do you reach your agents, and how do you help them reach their customers? And that's been a huge driving force for us, is because everyone's working from home. How do they feel connected? Like, we're doing these Zoom calls. Well, I wish I would have known about Zoom back in January. I would have bought stock.
I think many of us do.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. But we're doing videos twice a week to our members. We're doing live interviews and whatever. So the more we can communicate with our members, but then also make it easy for them to communicate with their customers. So communication to me is key.
Absolutely. Jackie?
So I was going to go very much in the same direction as Vicky. The platforms like Zoom, like we've used for business all along the way, can be used to connect in so many personal ways. So I have found connecting via Zoom with friends from all over the world has replaced the ability to travel to see them right now. So like Vicky, connections are really important. Like Kathryn, one thing I've learned about myself is that if I really put my mind to it, I can cook. I usually am on the road so much that cooking wasn't for me. I really didn't, but I've learned how to make 4 things, and we're getting there. But one thing that was reinforced, I can't say I learned it because I always knew it, is just how resilient our industry is, and how we are really all in this together. We have each other's back. So can't say I learned it, but can absolutely say that I couldn't be prouder to be in the travel industry right now, because this is a great group. It's in your blood. There is no cure. It's a virus, but it's a great virus to have, a good virus. Yeah.
Good. As the moderator, I'm going to answer that question as well, because many of you know I keep a gratitude journal, and I write 5 things in it at least every day. And a lot of people say, even as your business has been down up to 98%, even as you've furloughed and laid people off, even as, and I said, there are always things to be grateful for. And I know one of the ones that I will write down tonight is the opportunity to connect with over 700 advisors in an industry that I love and I'm so passionate about. So with that, Dan, Jason, can we start getting some questions here?
Hey, Jennifer, you should have the questions in your chat now.
Perfect, thank you. I've been watching the chat bar just zoom along here, so no pun intended. First one, a few cruise planner advisors wanted to know where Vicky got the cruise planner mask, okay? I think honestly, not that specific question, but we all have to get new PPE items. We all need to figure out, are we going to have hotels, cruise lines, airlines? There's a responsibility. As people maybe come back into brick and mortar, are you going to be handing out co-branded masks? I think if everyone's back ordered in New York, I can certainly say on hand sanitizer and wipes. So I I know a few of our independent contractors actually started a PPE company. So if there are good tips or best practices or maybe shared services for collective buying, I see an opportunity there for the industry. That one sort of threw me off a hair. Okay, what can advisors do now to help keep their businesses afloat when bookings aren't necessarily coming in? And I think that's an awesome question. So one of you on the panel who just jump on raise your hand and let me know who wants to take that one. Jen?
I'll take it. Oh, yes. I think you have to, you should always be looking at how you can scale your business by adding additional services that are maybe complementary to your travel business, but not necessarily your travel business. Just like Jennifer just said, you know, maybe you're making masks right now. Maybe you are just charging a service fee to plan something. Maybe you are working with newer travel advisors entering the industry. I know across the board, there are plenty of people entering the industry, many who have been in the industry that are furloughed that are now like, I think I'll just sell travel. I know all about it. Open up a coaching service for that. Go get a part-time job doing something that you absolutely love. One of our advisors is teaching Spanish on the side, and she absolutely loves it. And so that's supplementing her income. She feels like she's giving back to her community, using her passions and her joys and her talents, and making a profit from it. I think you have to think outside of travel without having to get out of travel altogether.
Love those suggestions. Kathryn, anything you want to add to that?
I would have to agree. You know, we've got quite a few of our members that are doing the same thing with PPE. They are looking at masks, and they're selling masks today. But I think outside of how they're earning, I think you need to look at what the advisors should be doing and continue to do, which is reaching out to their consumers. Although they're not booking right now, it's staying connected with your consumers. I think that is key, that personal touch that some have lost sight of in the last few years because they've been extremely busy, and it's come back, which we encourage heavily.
And I think that connection's key, but as we sort of recognize, we all know the cycles of this business, that without booking, having made no real bookings in March, April, May, and June, but rather doing refunds and postponements and rebookings, that cash flow is not going to come in based on a commission model, which is what this industry is on, with the exception of fees. So I didn't know if either Vicky or Jackie or John, somebody wants to look at how are people staying afloat? I mean, it is great to have a part-time job. It's really important to reach out to your customer, but there are hard times out here right now where people just don't know how to stay afloat.
I mean, I'll take it. Look, we talk about it constantly, twice a week. We're on a call with everybody, and it's a matter of staying in front of your customers, staying engaged, because as we know, and I think Jen, you said it earlier, is it's going to come back. So there's going to be hard times right now. You may have to do something else on the side.
So the game of survival. It's waiting it out right now.
Survival. Look, as Richard Fain said in one of his videos, this time sucks. He says a very business term. It sucks, and we just got to get through it. And then to the PPE stuff. We have a CP store, which literally is for charity. And somebody asked about masks, and we made cruise planner masks, and we're making more of them now with bling on them and whatever. But it's all travel related. It says travel makes me smile.
So we want to stay in the travel industry space. I'm going to actually, Jen, okay?
I just want to make one comment real quick. Guys, one of the other things that's going to help this industry long term, and we keep talking about service fees and stuff, is to talk about how you get paid. To me, if you educate your consumer on how you get paid, how this all works. If you do that, then that's going to solve a lot of troubles later on down the road. Okay, but I do think
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just have one thing to add, that now is as good a time as any to invest in yourself. So really take a good hard look at what you're selling. Is there an opportunity to maybe expand that? Is there an opportunity to take certification programs? I know that the Travel Institute still has a few days left in their scholarship program. A lot of suppliers have great programs out there. The TMR webinar series, if you haven't seen them all, go back and watch them. But you know, one of the things that you can be doing right now is just investing in yourself and your professional development.
Agreed. And along the lines of professional development, I know there was another question tied to making many bookings for 2021, but how can you be certain that that supplier is going to be present and viable? How can you make sure you're protecting your client's money and their investment, their actual financial investment? Didn't know. Quick show of hands of who might want to handle field that question. Vicky, first.
I mean, we work with only one insurance supplier, but the best thing to look at is what their terms are. And if you insure the product within the first 14 days or whatever, it's covered for supplier default. So if something happens and or these other situations occur, so even though we used to say, hey, save your client money, book it later on. Now we're saying, look, because the client's nervous about default, buy it early, you have it. Obviously it's financial gain for the agent as well. So we've talked a lot about that lately because that has been a big concern is people are saying, well, what if they're not around? I don't want to give a deposit now because what if they're not around next year? So that's what we're doing.
Anyone else want to have some other insight there?
Well, Jennifer, I was
one thing.
John first, then Jackie.
No, I was just going to say it is a quandary for travel advisors because some of the suppliers, travel protection, might offer cancel for any reason or price protection, things like that. But of course, then the customer is not insured for default. So we do have some of our travel advisors have figured out how to it's a rough conversation with a client because they say, I need 2 different travel insurance policies for this trip, and but try to, protect them in all ways that they possibly can. So that's that's difficult, but they are finding
emerging here in some of the questions also, John, that insurance is this overwhelming topic. Yes. Everybody feels it's a responsibility and a duty, but it's also an opportunity. So I think that's something TMR is going to take back to say, I know there have been articles, but how can we break it down? Like 101, 201, something like that.
Yeah, that
Jackie,
would be a great, yeah.
Jackie, I think you had a quick comment.
Yeah, just a real quick comment. A number of suppliers are recognizing that and they are delaying final payment requirements, making them closer to departure. And so I would certainly encourage you to take advantage of that where you can so that there's less time between when that full payment is made and when they're scheduled to travel.
Absolutely, and I think that goes back to the theme from before about terms and conditions, best practices, change in policies and behavior, educating the customer up front that this is what's coming so there are no surprises, and it actually all ties together beautifully there. I see 1 or 2 more questions, and I think we're doing pretty well on time, is thoughts on advising customers on airline cabin safety?
Oh.
Any high-level thoughts?
Jennifer, I'll start. I think that the recommendations that have been out there all along from the very beginning about wearing a face mask, obviously on an airplane you can't keep 6 feet apart, but wearing a face mask and washing your hands, having the hand sanitizer. Some of the people that I've talked to that have flown recently, they really didn't they said it wasn't all that strange, really, in a way. It was strange to see everybody wearing a face mask, but they know they have to do it. And they did feel comfortable flying. They weren't scared about it. They just said it's what you have to do. And they were comfortable with that.
Good. Jen?
Just in general, I think it's important that advisors try to steer away from the word safe and safety. Instead, use the word, confident, comfortable. One of the things I'm constantly talking about is, you can share with your clients, there's not one travel partner out there that is going to open their arms, open their doors, put up a ramp for you to get on their ship if they're not feeling 100% confident and comfortable in the decisions they've made to make sure your clients are feeling the same way. So I'd steer away from that word safe and go to
Agreed. It's very much about confidence and individual tolerance for risk.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's a great suggestion.
And I think that's how we begin to frame it. I also might make the recommendation that all the major U.S. carriers have these great links now. And I know our advisors are time starved, so maybe TR and Mark can put a little link somewhere that useful tips and tools.
They have a great COVID resource thing.
I love the resource. I love the COVID.
We pinned that to our Facebook page. Our advisors use it all the time.
It's one of my top stars. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. As you can see, I'm trying to glance at the chat and connect with each one of you.
We got you, girl. Don't worry.
For the moment. Dan, are there any other questions?
I did want to share the results of the ASTA ACTA poll we did. So 81% of the people on this call are members of ASTA and ACTA, which is
that's awesome.
Yeah,
it means we have an opportunity of 19% right there.
There you go.
Other than that, everyone is super thankful for each and every one of you guys being on the call and being a part of your organization. So,
Dan, this was great. I wrote down 5 themes that I heard throughout today. The need and the desire the people, advisors, clients, suppliers are craving connection. And I think that is so true. And we need to recognize that as we communicate more, one way isn't the right way. There are so many ways to connect with all of us. And TMR definitely has our back as the voice of the travel advisor. I think it's the investment in you. That's number 2. Use this time, as hard as it is, financially, personally, professionally, invest in yourself. I think there is the theme that I alluded to a moment ago with terms and conditions, how we weave that into the day-to-day practice. It might have been a nice to have in the past, but it's a real must-have as we move forward. I think there is the opportunity for a little more clarity on insurance at some point. But I think the most important thing that came away today is share your story and a heartfelt thank you. And it's just the order on my screen. Jen, John, Jackie, Vicky, and Kathryn, a pleasure to speak with you today. I loved your insights. I know each of you, but I learned something new, and I know if it's red or white wine. I know there are 4 meals you can cook, Jackie. I'm proud, John, your wife is your scary time hero. I agree with you, Kathryn. I don't take for granted boarding a plane and when you get up right above that cloud level. But Anne-Marie, Jason, and Dan, thank you for the opportunity of letting me moderate this panel.
Great job, Jen.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
And the next panel is August 6th. Make sure to sign up for that one and send questions in ahead of time. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Washy, washy.
Bye, guys. Washy, washy. Bye.